afternoon, everyone. My name is Robin Keller, and I am welcoming you to DIFM Live. That is our conference, Driving Impact for Manufacturers, and we are 1 week away. So this is the last call. If you want to sign up, please visit our website, and you can sign up right away, and we'll make sure that you're included. But again, 1 week away. We got so many great people coming to speak. We have a great activity done with our own NWRC people. And we have my next guest, Andreas Welsch. He's going to be speaking at our conference in not one, but two breakout sessions. So you could see him twice if you want to. Just a little bit about Andreas. He is a internationally recognized AI leader, advisor, speaker, and trainer, known for helping the world's leading enterprises turn technology hype into business outcomes. He is also the founder and chief human agentic AI officer at Intelligence Briefing. And he has a new book. The Human Agentic AI Edge. And he also actually has another one that he wrote a little while ago, the AI Leadership Handbook. And he'll be speaking at our conference on both of those topics. So welcome, Andreas. Thank you for being here.
Hey, Robin, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be with you today.
I'm excited because really, you are a rock star. I know I tell you, but you're the most famous person I've ever interviewed on this show. So I'm so excited to have you here. Thank you for your time.
Of course, my pleasure. It's always great connecting with you and hearing what's up with manufacturing. And so I'm so excited to come to Erie next week and be speaking to your members.
Thank you. Well, I know the audience would love to hear me speak all the time, but I will start asking you questions. So, so for our audience who may be new to your work, how do you describe what you do in the AI space?
Oh, that's a good one. So, see, I've spent the last 25 years in and around technology, a long time in IT. I used to work for a company called SAP that maybe many of you are familiar with in enterprise applications. And I've been independent for the last 2 years. And I help business leaders and business owners figure out what do we do with AI, right? If you have a board, probably your board member has asked you, if you're the president, what do we do with AI? What's our AI strategy? If you're in a leadership role or even a professional, your leaders are asking you, hey, we need to do something with AI. We either need to come up with ideas or here is a tool. Can we figure out how to use this? And that's where I see my mission in helping these organizations figure out what do we do with AI? What are the right tools and technologies we should be looking at? And then most of all, how do we bring our people along on this journey, because work is changing? So how can we upskill them? And I know we've been teaming up for the last 6 months, roughly, bringing training, bringing upskilling to manufacturers in your area. And it's just something that excites me so much, because there's so much talk about AI, the good, the bad, the ugly, more of the good. But also people are worried and are wondering, how do I use this? And what can I do with it? So I think the more practical we can make it, the more we can also shape the realism of what can we use it for, what is it good at, what is it not so good at, and what do we still need to do?
Well, I love everything that you've said about it, because our manufacturers have a lot of questions for you. Like you said, that you do a lot of trainings with us, specifically for manufacturers that maybe want to integrate into AI with their companies. So, for you, what originally pulled you into the artificial intelligence realm? And was there a specific moment that just hooked you in?
So you'd be surprised. When I got my undergrad, artificial intelligence was an elective for exactly 0 points. And at that time I thought, well, AI, it's the stuff that science fiction is about. It'll never be relevant to anything that I do. There's about 2007, 2008. And then come 2014, 15, there was a lot of investment in artificial intelligence, in machine learning. How can we teach machines to recognize objects or classify information? Is this a contract? Is this an invoice? Is this a bill of lading? Things like that. And just seeing that there's so much potential that we can scale work, that we can get rid of some of the menial things that we do on a regular basis and have a system do that for us. because it's still more complex than if this happens, then do that. That's something that got me excited and to help many organizations figure out how do we do that and how do we do it well.
Well, speaking of that, going into our manufacturers, most of them are asking, where do we even start with AI? And what would you tell them?
That's one of the first questions, like you said, that many organizations are asking. So, one of the recommendations I have is if you already have some kind of AI tools like an AI assistant, Copilot, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, any of those, it's really about getting more hands-on and learning how can I use these tools for more than a better Google search, right? So learning about prompting, what are the instructions I should give these tools, how can I work with them, what can I do with documents, how can I ask it as a thought partner, how can we do some role playing, things like that. And not just the simple questions, but really see it more as an assistant or as a sparing partner that you can team up with to solve some of the more challenging questions that you might face at work. I just saw one great question in the chat about what are some of the use cases or some of the scenarios that you're seeing manufacturers pursuing, right? Obviously, manufacturing is no stranger to this kind of technology with things like predictive maintenance or preventative maintenance. There's been AI in many of the systems that you're very likely already using today to predict when should we service an asset, rather than on a fixed schedule based on usage, based on some conditions. But now it goes even beyond that. So a couple examples from my work with manufacturers, and one of them comes from our latest cohort that we've run together for our AI Explorer upskilling program. When we asked the participants from 1 week to the next, hey, come up with an idea based on what you've seen so far over the last 3 weeks, how you can use these assistants. One of the participants came back and said, hey, I have this idea. Every time we get a custom order, I, as the logistics manager, need to figure out how do we package this, what size packaging do we need, how many items go into this box. If it's a standard order, I have it down. I've been doing this for 10, 15 years. I got it. But if it's custom, I still need to do some calculations, and it's pretty cumbersome. So he built a custom GPT, like a repeatable function in ChatGPT, where he now is able to upload a sketch of the part, including dimensions, and then ask ChatGPT, can you calculate if I have 27 of these items, how do they go into our box, into our packaging, and so on? How should I stack them, or how many? What's the other question? Can I even put in there? So significant time saving for the logistics manager, and for me, again, a great example of how you can even make a meaningful impact in your own work by looking at these little things, or things that seem little but that add up over time.
I remember that example, and that did. I think that your class was very, I don't want to say life-changing to these manufacturers, but certainly time-saving, and just let them think about AI in a completely different way. And there's a lot of leaders that were on that training as well. So, I mean, what do you think leaders should think about when they're balancing using AI and automation versus the human judgment?
I love that, because it gets right to the core of this one, of the human agentic AI edge, right? Oh, you have a copy too. Perfect.
It
does. So I think that's one of the big questions today, because there is a lot of excitement, there's a lot of push to try out AI and use it in many different ways. But maybe you've noticed this yourself if you've been using ChatGPT or similar tools for a while. The more you delegate to it, the less you're actually in control, and the less you know about the topic, or the less you apply your own judgment. For some things, it's perfectly fine, right? If you transcribe meeting minutes with AI, getting summary of those meeting minutes, you probably don't need to apply a lot of judgment. Maybe cross-check, does it make sense? Were those really the topics we discussed? Good, send it off. But if it's something that you write, something that you write in your own voice, where somebody expects you to share your authentic feedback, for example, or your authentic perspective, I'd be very careful and cautious to over-rely on AI, because we also know it sounds pretty bland many times. So if people see through it and say, oh, hey, I was expecting that Robin sends me this personal note or this personal feedback on how awesome the episode went, or maybe how terrible. And all I'm getting is this, pretty bland AI generated response. Seems like she didn't really care giving me this feedback. So, not that we're ever to happen here, but be mindful of what do your recipients expect from you in terms of quality of work and in terms of authenticity. By all means, use AI. I think it's here to stay, and it's important we all use it more and use it in better ways and learn how to use it better. But also apply your judgment to say, is this something that's good enough that can just go out, or is this something where somebody expects a personal response from me and I need to, write this myself or make sure it's in my own voice?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that people are going to start being able to figure out when something is written with AI and when's not. But eventually, maybe not. It is evolving and adapting. But one of our listeners, they asked a question: with all the knowledge you've gained over the years, what are your biggest concerns about AI and its current trajectory?
So my biggest concerns, very simply stated, in organizations, is really that there's so much push and investment. We need to do something with AI, and that the hopes and promises don't necessarily materialize, and that they don't materialize because the technology isn't capable of doing it, but that the organization isn't capable of adapting fast enough, and that we're missing an important part of change management. Right? AI changes how we work. Any technology has ever changed how we work. Now it's just faster. It's at a faster pace. It seems to be more impactful. Additional roles, like highly skilled labor, is being disrupted too, to some extent. But how do we navigate this, and how do we give people a perspective and an opportunity to learn about it, to bring it into the business, and understand what are even the right things we should be doing, so we are not sinking cost into some pet project that someone has.
Well, talking about using AI for certain tasks to make them faster, I mean, you wrote a book about it. So I would like to talk about your book. What was your inspiration for it? And how did you write it without using AI?
Good question. So see, last year around this time frame, I started getting more and more emails and communication from business partners, and they were saying, hey, I drafted this, can you take a look at this? Hey, I wrote this, what do you think? Is this good enough? And as I was reading the information, I thought to myself, hey, this sounds a lot like it's come straight from ChatGPT or from some AI tool. So did the other party, did the sender not apply the diligence and care to get this from good to actually great? And I was starting to see a pattern. And in many of the trainings that I gave, leaders shared a similar pattern with me. A senior manager in automotive told me, look, I have a team of 10, 20 people. Now they keep sending me all these meeting minutes and action items of things that they have on their plate, meetings they've attended, and they expect me to read this. I don't have time. I didn't have time before AI to do this. Now I have even less time to do it. So it became clear that leaders also are struggling, right? On one hand, your senior leadership team is expecting you to promote AI in the organization to find new efficiencies. But on the other hand, you cannot afford to sacrifice quality. Right? Just using AI and trusting it blindly is usually a recipe for low quality results. But at the end of the day, your stakeholders, your business partners, your customers, they all expect high quality work from you. So this field of tension between, yes, we need to do AI, but we're not really sure how, and we need to do at least the same and deliver the same level of quality, that's what's prompted me to write the book. I typically approach it in the following way. If there's something that I think about, something that I write, I want to write it myself, because it helps me clarify my own thinking and validate, does this actually make sense? Especially if I share this with other people and I get some feedback. And I think that's one of the things I would not want to fully delegate to AI. But where I used it at the end, after I had written the manuscript was really as a copy editor and as a line editor to give me feedback on the manuscript. Is it consistent? Is it coherent? Are there any things missing? Can you help me define certain concepts or define names for certain concepts? And that's where it was quite helpful. And it found some inconsistencies and a few things, but it also did not shut up. Right? Maybe you've seen this too. It's always a useful and helpful assistant. It always gives you feedback. Always have suggestions. So you, as a user and as a human, you need to draw a line in the sense. Okay, until here, that's the feedback that I take. This is, what makes sense. This is something that I could implement. But if I keep going in like 3-4 iterations down the line, I'm not seeing any groundbreaking feedback, anything that would make it materially better. Quite the opposite. I'm now concerned that that the quality deteriorates with every fix or proposed fix that I implement. So it taught me a lot about how do I work with AI, where do I want to still be in control in that reviewing process, and where do I need to draw a line in the sand and say, okay, I can firmly stand behind this, that this is as good as it gets with the resources I have. And good learning opportunity.
Well, I do remember we had a conversation about AI reviewing your book, and I believe it got a little snarky. Can you talk about that and give the example?
Oh yeah, sure. So in the fall, a company called Deloitte, who's a professional services company for software, was in the news because they used AI for a report that they created for the Australian government. And there were a lot of inconsistencies and errors in that report, and it came out that the company had used AI. And in one of the earlier versions of my manuscript, from what I remembered about the news coverage, I said, yeah, and Deloitte had to repay the entire contract value to the Australian government. So as I was using my ChatGPT to review the manuscript, my developmental editor that usually looks at more of the structure and fit for audience found an inconsistency and said, hey, if you want to write a book for executives and leaders, and it's all about how to create high quality results, you should know better. You should check your facts. They didn't have to repay the entire contract, but just a part. I'm like, oh, okay. So I was very pleasantly surprised that it found the inconsistency. Great. I'm pretty sure a developmental editor, a copy editor, a human might not have found it unless they're really familiar with the topic. So that was great. But I was very surprised about the tone. Like, if you want this to be high quality for leaders and executives, you better make sure not to have any errors in this. Like, oh, okay. Didn't expect that tone. But it can happen.
I love that. I love that AI kind of yelled at you a little. And even though you are the expert, and you're probably more of an expert than really AI is in itself, I think. That's how incredible and how much knowledge you have. So one of the questions we got in our audience is, do you think that AI is gradually dumbing down the workforce? And if yes, what are the dangers?
That's a very good question. So I'm an adjunct professor at a local university here in Pennsylvania. I'm on the other side of the state, just outside of Philadelphia. And there I can already see the tendency to use AI to offload some of the work. Give me the answer for this. I'm seeing the same thing in businesses too, and I wouldn't be surprised if you're noticing that as well. So AI is becoming a shortcut of sorts, which to some extent it should become. But the question really is to your point in the audience, how much do you delegate? If you delegate too much and you trust it too much, you're no longer as knowledgeable, right? You say, yeah, it'll do this. It's a machine. Machines are always right. And even if you don't think that, it's faster. I get it done. I get more work done, right? The paper stack on my desktop keeps shrinking. That's good enough. And here we go. But I think that the challenge really is at least twofold, if not manifold. One is many organizations, especially over the last 12 to 18 months, have been slowing down hiring, especially hiring of entry-level roles, because they say, hey, AI is able to do many of these things, or let's be honest, will likely be able to do many of these tasks that entry-level professionals work on. But I think it misses a big point, because today we have a pyramid as an organizational structure. If you cut off the bottom and this moves up, it becomes more of a diamond or maybe a kite, all the way to the point where it's just this tiny spear, fewer people managing more technology. But what is missing in all of that is, how do we build up expertise? What does your talent bench look like? Who is going to succeed your senior leaders in the organization, or your senior experts, if not entry-level people at some point, right? People who are entry-level today. So I think we need to navigate that very carefully. And again, that's the balance we need to strike, but also the tension between, yes, we should all use more AI to help us be more efficient and productive, but we also need to learn how much to use it and when to pull back and say, okay, this is what I need to know. There's studies that show if you are familiar with the subject, with the domain that you are using AI in, you can prompt it differently. You can also tell a lot better if the output is correct and right and accurate and actionable, or if there's just a very optimistic, rosy-eyed view of the world. So it's important to have enough subject matter expertise to guide it and to evaluate, does this make sense? And going forward, we and leaders and HR leaders as well need to align, what does expertise look like? How do we build it? And what does it mean to become an expert and to be an expert when we have AI tools that can help us raise the baseline, basically, of what we can do?
Oh, you're back?
Yes.
You're good.
Yeah.
That's what live is all about.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Andreas, I feel like we are always talking about the negatives of AI. It's something scary. It's not something that we're very familiar with. We don't see maybe what the future is going to be like with it. We're not able to envision it. I'm not sure, but I feel like in general, we kind of talk negatively about AI. So what about some positive things? Like, is there something that you think that AI's capability is going to be that you're really excited about, that you see in the future that it's going to be able to do?
That's a big question. Let's see. So I usually think about it in the realm of business. And if we stay there, I'm very optimistic that it can help us increase even more automation and productivity of things that we are doing manually, that we have been doing manually for a long time, but find a better way to do it. A lot of this, think of it as three concentric circles. Right now, we're talking a lot about personal productivity. You can summarize meeting minutes, draft emails, maybe solve the bin packing problem that we talked about earlier. And that's great. But there's a lot more value and opportunity in the next circle, which is, what does your team do? What does your team do on a regular basis, every day, every week, every month? Can you automate some of that with AI? It could be research, right? Every month, every quarter, we run some competitive reports. We look at our competitors' financial statements and filings, things that are public, any press releases, any maybe tariff information, new regulation. And instead of doing this and spending a week or two compiling the information, now we can do it in half a day or in a couple hours with the help of AI. I think it's these kind of things before you then on the third layer say, what are we really, really good at and what makes us unique, and how can we use AI there to provide a new or a better product or service to our customers? To me, if we focus it on business, these are the three opportunities. It's great we're getting lots of people excited and raise their awareness now about AI. So ideally, over time, they can also support some of the more outer layers of this model. Generally, outside of business, I think there's been a lot of promise and hope when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to life science, whether it's finding cures for diseases or developing new drugs or new drugs more quickly. But as controversial as it might have been a couple of years ago during the pandemic, the COVID vaccinations, they were developed in large part with the help of AI and iterated. Companies like Moderna and BioNTech used a lot of that technology to develop new substances and compounds and test them. I'm seeing the same promise in material science. And again, bring it back more to manufacturing. So to me, it's all a matter of, thinking about what can the technology do in general, how much do we understand about it, and what are new ways in which we can use them.
I love that answer. Thank you. Because I do want, I think AI is here to stay. And I think we should embrace it. And I think we should embrace it in a very positive way. I do love using AI. It's helped my job tremendously when I need it. I would like to kind of talk about the conference now because you're going to be there. And what are your two topics that you are specifically going to speak about in your presentations?
So thank you. So first of all, I'm super excited to be coming to ERA next week. I also learned I should bring a jacket and maybe a warm hat and a scarf. But that might happen if you live by one of the largest lakes. But anyways, in the two sessions, I'll talk about how can you build your first AI agent. So a piece of software where you can delegate a task to and say, for example, research the latest tariff information for me and send me an email once a week with the news. So I don't need to go and search for it. That's one example. So how do you build your first agent? What is it even all about? And what happens when we can increase the level of autonomy and automation through the help of software? That's one. And then the other talk is a lot about how do I actually bring AI into my business, right? Maybe your board members, your president, your CEO says, we need to do AI. Okay, what does it mean? How do we do that? How do we do that well? And most importantly, how do we bring our people along on that journey? Because not everybody is as excited as you and I are about the technology for the right reasons, right? So how can we show as business leaders and as leaders in manufacturing where the technology has its merits, what it means for individual roles, and what even to prioritize.
Awesome. Yay. Yeah. And I do know you're going to have your books there, both of them. And will we be able to purchase them there?
Yes, they'll be definitely available. Yeah.
Awesome. That is so great. I am so excited, Andreas. You have really changed my mind about AI. I have learned so much from you. I can't get enough of talking to you. Like I could do this all day, but I do want to be cognizant of your time and of our audience time. And they're just going to have to come to the conference to see you in person so they can get more information from you.
Absolutely. So I hope to see many of you next week. Don't forget to sign up. Where do they sign up again?
Well, they can go to our website at nwirc.org, and it's right on the homepage.
Awesome.
Thank you. Well, Andreas, thank you so much for talking with me today. I hope that everybody out there got some great information. I did. Every time I talk to this guy, I'm always learning something. And his book is fantastic. So please look it up. You can also buy it on Amazon. And like I said, he'll be there at our conference, and copies of his book will be available.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure joining you on this show, and I hope to see many of you next week in person.
Thank you so much, Andreas.